Second grade, Miss L here. Welcome back to Wit and Wisdom. We are on lesson 23 today. So we are going to be able to understand or show our understanding of how steps in a process are connected. So to start, let's review with what a process is. We talked about this in one of our lessons last week. A process is something that usually happens slowly. It is when you go through steps in order, and there's usually a beginning and an end to something happening in a process. So an example I gave you is one of my favorite processes to go through, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You start at the beginning by getting your bread out. You end by putting your bread with the peanut butter and jelly together so that you can eat it. So there are many processes. We would go through many processes each day in school, getting ready for morning meeting, putting our breakfast in the trash, lining up for lunch or specials. So anytime you go through steps in order, that is a process. So we're going to look at the story Good Enough to Eat today by Lizzie Rockwell. And we're going to complete a new read assessment. And what we're going to do is just focus on one of the processes that is in the story. So we are going to focus on the process of digestion. Digestion, which by the way, is your secret code word today. Digestion is the way food is broken down so that nutrients can be absorbed or taken into your body. For a healthy digestion, you should eat plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. These foods supply or give fiber. Fiber does not get absorbed during digestion. It helps carry bad chemicals and excess fats out of your body. So digestion is how your food gets broken down so that all the nutrients in food can be taken into your body to give your body what it needs. So if you look over here, there's a diagram. It says when you digest food, mouth. Okay, that's the top of the process. Mouth grinds food and mixes it with saliva. Remember, saliva is like our spit. Okay, so you put your food into your mouth. Esophagus pushes food down to your stomach. That's that long tube. Stomach churns food, so kind of mixes it up and mixes it with acids and turns the food into a thick liquid. We call that chyme. Then it keeps traveling and goes to the small intestine, which absorbs or takes in the nutrients through its spongy lining. Nutrients enter the bloodstream. So those nutrients get out and go into your blood to help keep you healthy. And then the large intestine, you can see down here, that's the last step, absorbs water and leads unused parts of food out of your body when you go to the toilet. So when you have to go to the bathroom and get rid of the excess stuff in your body, that's being pushed out by the large intestine. That's the stuff that your body doesn't need to use. Okay, so this is the process of digestion, and they're showing you with one of these really fancy nonfiction text features, where they're showing you through this diagram. So let's go ahead and zoom in on that diagram. There are some special words that we use when we're talking about processes. They're called temporal words. So they help you sequence or put steps in order. Okay, so the first step in the digestion process is going to the mouth. Second, to the esophagus. Next is a good temporal word you can use. It goes to the stomach. Then it goes to the small intestine. Can you think of what word might pop up for the large intestine? Remember, it's the last step. What word, what sequential or temporal word might we use? Lastly, if you said finally, that would also be a really good word. So first, second, next, then, and lastly. We're putting those steps in order so you know which comes first, which ones are in the middle, and which one is last. Okay? All right. Looking at this diagram again, this is page 15. It says, how many steps are there in the digestive process? We just reviewed them. I read them out loud for you, and then we put them in order. How many? Look closely at this picture, at this diagram, And when you know, hold up on your hand. Show me how many fingers for how many steps there are. Do you think there's 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5? Maybe you think there's 10. How many steps are in this digestive process? Got it held up? If you said 5 steps, you are correct. The mouth is the first step, esophagus second, stomach third, small intestine fourth, large intestine fifth. 5 steps in this process. Okay, zooming in. What important job does the mouth do in the digestive process? So look at this diagram. Find where it says mouth and see if you can figure out what job is the mouth doing. If you're having trouble finding it, that is where it says mouth. What job is it telling you that the mouth does in the digestion process? Yes, the mouth's job is to grind food and mix it with saliva. That's why you have those nice teeth to chop it up into little bits, then it mixes with your spit and goes down into your body. Yep, great job. Okay, now we're going to have a series of statements and we have to figure out which one is true. You ready? This one's a little tricky. Okay, here's our statements. A, food enters the digestive process through the esophagus. B, the large intestine is where acids mix with the food. Or C, food travels through the small intestine before the large intestine. How would I use this diagram to figure out which of those statements is true and which ones are false? Well, I know if I'm taking a quiz and I want to figure out if something is true, I read it and see if I can find that information on my diagram. So it says, food enters the digestive process through the esophagus. Well, I know that when I digest food, I have to get it into my body in the first place. And I know that my mouth is how food gets into my body. The esophagus is all the way down here in my throat. So would that make sense that food enters the digestive process through my esophagus? If you're saying no, you're right about that. The food enters the digestive process through your mouth. So we know that can't be the correct answer. That can't be true. Let's look at B. The large intestine is where acids mix with the food. How would I find out if that's true? Yeah, you're exactly right. On my diagram, I can look for the large intestine and see what job it does. See if it says anything about acids mixing with food. So let's go ahead and read that together. Come on over here to the large intestine. It says, large intestine absorbs water and leads unused parts of food out of your body when you go to the toilet. I remember that. It's that last step in the process. Scholars, did it say anything about acids mixing with food in the large intestine? It didn't. Where does it talk about acids? Look at that process. Right here, churns food and mixes it with acids. That's the stomach. So second grade, is the large intestine where acids mix with the food, yes or no? No, that one is also not true. So we're left with C, food travels through the small intestine before the large intestine. Well, we really want to make sure that is the correct answer. So we have to go back to our diagram and look. Does the small intestine come before the large intestine in the process? So let's see. First, we had the mouth. Second, we had the esophagus. Next, we had the stomach. Then we had the small intestine. And lastly, we had the large intestine. So ask yourself, does food travel through the small intestine before the large intestine? Yes or no? If you said yes, you are correct. We're looking at the steps in the process. These are in order. So the small intestine happens before the large intestine as a step in the process. The food gets to the small intestine before the large intestine. Great job today, second grade. If you need to remember what our secret code word is, I'll give you a little hint. It's back at the beginning of the video. So go back and listen if you forgot what it is. Good luck and see you later.